So what we'll do is in the next 30, 40 minutes, we'll cover around 5G, the growth of 5G in the country, but mainly around how that is impacting the digital infrastructure of the country. Things like connectivity, things like data centers. Because of 5G, what is the impact of that? What are the use cases which are happening? And how those whole digital infra in the country is evolving to get to the 5G needs. Also, I think we'll cover the issues. The ground reality is that while 5G has grown in India so much in the last 2-3 years, it's been the fastest deployment globally. India was one of the last countries to get to 5G, but one of the fastest to finally, have the number of sites it has right now. And the growth has been phenomenal. And 5G use cases are slowly adopting as well. Monetization of 5G is frankly still a challenge, but the industry adoption, the things around smart agriculture, smart factories, autonomous networks, all that is becoming a reality. And what that is leading to, it is making an impact on the whole digital infrastructure, right? How are we, is the IP optical connectivity there? Are we ready with the data center capacity that is needed to get to the usage of the data because of 5G? And with AI coming in, it is just tip of the iceberg. All that growth is to be there, which has to be taken care of. So those are the challenges, those are the issues that we need to think about, which are, this country is sort of, facing right now. And frankly speaking, this is, as I said, it's one of the fastest growing networks in the world. And when we go to global events and all, we give India as an example of the scale and volume of deployment that has happened and the volume of data that this country has. I think after China, probably the maximum data consumption is in India, right? And the cost per megabit is the lowest in the world. So these are the dynamics that this country has to live with, but still companies are making money, there is profitability, there is growth, there is demand, there is high volume. So it's a very interesting dynamics and mix of things. So what we'll do is just a quick start of intros of the panelists so that you get to know who they are, where they come from, and what do they do on the day-to-day job, and then we'll get into the sort of Q&A. Also, we'll leave some time for answers, for questions and answers in the end. Just for myself, I'm Vinish Bawa. I'm a partner with PwC. I take care of Telecom Sector, which is telecom and technology, including data centers, service providers, ISP. So anything to do with telcos. We do a lot of work with AI as well. So that's my role. And I'll now let the panelists just do a quick 30-second intro about yourselves. Pratap, over to you.
Thanks, Vinish. I'm Pratap Mane. I'm the country head and president for COLT data centers in India. COLT actually stands for City of London Telecom, and we are a fidelity organization. So we cater to hyperscalers. I've spent almost 40 years now in the industry, worked in various sectors. So I did Airtel's national rollout, built the first data center for Tata's way back in 2000, and then worked for a lot of multinational banks like JP Morgan, Deutsche, Barclays. So been in the industry for long, I would say.
Lovely, great to have you.
Good morning everyone. I am Dr. Paventhan. I am a senior director with Education and Research Network, which comes under the Ministry of Electronics and IT. We are located at the IIT Madras Research Park. So we are a regional center. We do collaborative R&D with academia, like IITs, IISc, and premier academic institutions. And also we undertake many network and research services to academia. And we run satellite services. We are a domain registrar for ac.in, edu.in, all academic domain registered with ERNET. And we run satellite connectivity services. Any services to education, we cater within the government sector. So yeah, with that introduction, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Uttam. I'm responsible for the India business for Cogent Communications. Cogent's operational through its wholly owned subsidiary Sprint Telecom, which has licenses to operate NLD, ILD, and ISP services in India. Just a quick introduction on Cogent. We're one of the world's largest ISPs. We call ourselves the most connected network in the world with close to 8,500 networks directly connected to us. And we also carry around 30% of the world's internet traffic that either terminates in our network or transits through our network at any point in time. We're happy to announce that we're also launching our internet services in India in the next quarter.
Thank you, Uttam. And it's interesting to see we have a global VPN connectivity ISP player here. We have government, the education services company, and we have COLT, which is a data center, large company in India. So great to, pick the brains of all these panelists. What we'll do is, I think the first point I mentioned, Pratap, to you, the 5G growth is for a given, right? I mean, we have 5G deployed across every nook and corner of the country now. tier 2, tier 3 cities, adoption is also increasing a lot, right? Similarly, on the data center side, we are seeing the movement from metros to now companies talking about tier 2, tier 3 cities. So how's that linking with, the 5G growth in the country to your data center strategies around the other metros going beyond that and to tier 2, tier 3 cities, and even the hyperscalers asking for, demand in these places. So what do you see around that, and what is your, sort of the market that you're observing in this space?
Sure, thanks. So I think as we all of us know, India reached 1 gigawatt capacity last year. I think it took almost more than 20 years is what I would say to reach that milestone. And now we are talking of reaching another gigawatt in next 5 to 7 years, right? Which is, so you can see how the boom is happening. So I think as far as, I would divide data centers into 3 categories. One is hyperscalers, where, we cater for, say, Amazon, Google, Microsoft. Then there is enterprise. So enterprise caters to BSFI and large enterprises. And co-location is where, all the retail customers are there. And I think as far as 5G is concerned, it falls between enterprise and colo players. So as you know, that like Mumbai and Chennai are leading markets because of the cable landing stations and the low latency that it offers. So as the internet users, mobile users in all the cities are increasing day by day, I think data centers as in tier 2 and tier 3 cities will grow in future. I think edge data centers are contemplated. As of now, we haven't seen that. Right now, the focus of all data centers is in major metros. So I think that's the next phase that will happen. So tier 2, tier 3 cities will definitely, increase because one has to be closer to the, latency, bandwidth issues, closer to the end user. So that's going to happen in near future, for sure.
Absolutely. In fact, you said the demand, it's reached 1 gig. All predictions say it will double in the next 3 years or even 2 is what I hear. Those are market reports. We'll see how much of that actually happens. But that's the volume growth that is expected out of this country, right, in terms of data consumption. And tier 2, tier 3 cities are the next wave. I was hearing somewhere AI parks, data center parks being set up in middle of southern states which are not close to the sea as well. So those kind of trends we are seeing, at least announcements around it and things which are not normal earlier. So very interesting. Dr. Paventhan, on the ERNET side, so 5G is happening. I know you started off with the whole educational institutes and connectivity and all which was done. So what is ERNET doing in this space of utilizing 5G for the government and educational institutions connectivity, and how is that helping the rural growth of 5G, so to say? So anything that you want to share on that?
So I just want to highlight one of the standardization effort at the Telecom Standards Development Society of India, which is on the rural broadband services architecture. So they are trying to arrive at RBSA framework, which will be developed as part of the TSDSI to bring out a standard where rural services can be rolled out leveraging the existing BharatNet fiber connectivity to the villages and also the last mile 5G. So that is the context with which this initiative is currently ongoing within the administrative control of DOT. This is a RBSA framework. And this RBSA framework currently has published a white paper, and subsequently we are also trying to see an initiative called RBSA Marketplace, where rural applications can be initiated through this specification by farmers, any rural entrepreneur who can leverage this software framework using a 5G stack to roll out. So essentially we are trying to work at that level, more on the specification. And as you all know that there is a 5G intelligent villages. There are many government initiatives which are being to help both academia, startups, industry to roll out 5G because the killer applications is very important, because the 5G as it claimed like MMTC, URLLC and all these are, except for the bigger pipe, we haven't seen really use cases which leverage 5G features. So in that context, many of the government call for proposal is to my best of my knowledge, 5G intelligent villages are also not rolled out. So we need more such initiative to come out to benefit the industry and also the academia to do real pilot deployments. So in fact, we are also part of the process in applying for funding so that we start at least, let's say, 500 villages, 1,000 villages where education, telehealth, multiple use cases can be demonstrated leveraging 5G, and the features of 5G can be really potentially used. Because otherwise, what was done in 4G, if we do the same, then it may not be really so the killer application like a remote diagnostic, this one, smart ambulance, or the bandwidth requirement and the low latency part of the 5G needs to be leveraged to deliver real quality 5G services in villages. Just like smart city we talked about, the smart villages. So can we create smart villages leveraging 5G where the connecting the unconnected? So those are the kind of things that should be seen as a next step going forward. So with this, I will.
No, totally. In fact, the intelligent 5G villages was a brilliant concept that government came up with of having, thousands of villages for intelligent use cases using 5G. I think that project is still to be materialized, but I think at the thought process it's there, and we are in conversations around having to do POCs and concepts in certain villages to see all these practical use cases. Agriculture, I think education, agriculture, health. I think these three are the main use cases which are being sort of positioned for.
Drones, for example.
But also, I'll come to you later on this whole point about India wanting to lead the 6G vision and the AI vision, right? So we'll cover that also, but that's education institutions play a very important role in that sense. But Uttam, over to you. I think 5G is all, again, usage, etc. can happen, but the IP backbone connectivity, I think that's the sort of the little nervous system, right? Without that, nothing can grow, and all issues can keep on happening if the connectivity is not there. So is India connectivity-wise, what is your view? Are we ready? Is it supporting 5G? And what are the trends that are happening on the connectivity layer, if you can just share some thoughts on that?
So if we look at the entire ecosystem, ecosystem of the 5G use case, for example, the spectrum is really just the last mile, right? And to kind of assume that the spectrum and the technology can drive the use case is a fallacy. Now, so you have the spectrum, which is, you're seeing an explosion of 5G, like you pointed out. Last count, I think anything between 200 and 300 million points of termination on the 5G network. All of that has to, in order for use cases to be delivered on those, you need first an edge. You need edge-based data centers that are able to deliver data on a low latency, high density basis. And then the middle network, the middle fiber, which Mr. Paventhan also referred to. So the densification of fiber on the domestic nationwide pan-India network is a challenge, right? So for global IP transit service providers like us, there's been a proliferation of submarine capacity, both in terms of the capacities that can be supported and in terms of the options that are available. So there is great diversity. Some people that are participating are also kind of rolling out subsea, undersea cable systems. So on the IP transit side, we're comfortable. On the last mile side, 5G rollout has been aggressive and ambitious. I think the fiberization and the data center, edge-based data centers, that is where we're playing catch-up. But projects like the National Internet Backbone need to really be accelerated in order for us to really leverage the power of 5G.
Sure. No, I think that's one super important thing, that the whole IP backbone network, and in fact the whole transport network has to upscale to get this demand of 5G and AI. I was talking to certain, in a different panel somewhere, and I heard that right now even something like a tower fiberization. We have so many telecom towers in the country for 5G. We are just at 38% of the fiberization part of it, which is nothing compared to standard global economies, which are using 5G even lower than us. They are at 75% plus. So there is enough room for the transport network, and so that you understand that basically means that with high volume traffic, the quality of the network becomes an issue if the transport network is not in scale with that, including the fiberization. So there is enough room for that to happen, including the connectivity piece. So, I think in terms of use cases, we have seen 5G being, right now, I think mainly use cases are around mining, ports, healthcare, automotive factories, manufacturing. That's where, 5G is, the private networks are being used and things are happening on that front, which is certain use cases on the industry front. Besides that, then we are looking at, also the healthcare industry. A lot of robotic surgery and all, and certain countries are using 5G right now. India is still lagging behind, but there is these use cases that we have adopted to. Now, from a data center standpoint, Pratap, you must be talking to different enterprises and clients for their use cases, not on 5G, but in general. What are the use cases that you are hearing from different enterprises, which are now the data center traditional companies have to now, support them in certain ways? So can you talk more about that? I'm sure it is coming from the 5G demand, but impacting the data center end services also. What are the use cases that the companies are looking at now?
So I think I'll probably give a little broader perspective. I think apart from 5G, traditionally, it's more about cloud historically. But now we are seeing that people are talking about AI workloads. So traditionally, like for example, every rack could consume like maybe on an average between 5 kilowatt to 12 kilowatts. With AI coming in, the demand is going almost from 150 to 300 kilowatt per rack. So we have to be future ready. I think that's what we are thinking as to how we can be future ready for catering to the AI demand. Yes, there is a pause because of the Trump policies and AI chip diffusion policies and all. But I think in the next 2 years, I'm confident that we'll see that change in the landscape. 5G will probably become 6G, 7G. I think that's happening quite frequently. So I think the whole landscape of the demand in data center is changing tremendously. Like, every year we are seeing that change being driven. So,
and that's impacting the use cases which are coming from the enterprises. I think more and more, for example, we even as a big company, PwC, we are doing these days contract management on AI, right? So there is that's a demand that is being utilized day to day in the HR use cases on AI. The first level of HR interview happens using AI, right? And all that is just increasing the workload of data which is coming. So somebody has to host it, and that's where the demand of data center is increasing. So you can, go on and on. There is also something so that you are aware, hyper personalization reporting. These days, gone are the days of getting traditional reports for your network. You can talk to data and get reports on the fly. Right? These are the things which are live today that we see on a day-to-day basis. That tomorrow if Pratap gets up in the morning and you want to see where your performance of it is happening, you just talk to the data and the report will come as you want it, when you want it, and hyper-personalized. I think that's the kind of services that we are seeing, and data center companies have to now go and sort of adopt to those kind of things. So Uttam, I think on the bandwidth side, because there is so much of growth on the bandwidth, and there because of all these use cases. So there, what are the trends that again you are seeing from a high bandwidth perspective, and how is company like yourself catering to that? What are you doing from a network point of view?
Yeah. So there's obviously an explosion of bandwidth demand, and as transit providers, we kind of are in a comfortable place because of the availability of international capacity outside of the country, right? And because specifically for us, but in general for any large global transit provider, there is an abundance of international submarine capacity, and capacity keeps getting added on an every year basis, right? What users, particularly enterprises, are seeking is for their monetizable use cases, which are we spoke about manufacturing, healthcare, connected mobility, etc. And them, what's most important is to deliver on the low latency promise. So what we see the need for is to work as an ecosystem to bring the data closer to the edge. And so essentially, again, I'll kind of ad nauseum talk about the middle fiber, talk about interconnect points getting closer to the edge. So tier 1, tier 2 cities, comfortable. Right? Yeah. When we go beyond that, and if we really want to leverage as a country the 5G promise, we have to get beyond the tier 2, tier 3 cities into the rural ecosystem, right? So that is really where, as a community, we have to work to develop more interconnect points, edge data centers. We're seeing on a weekly basis new edge data centers being announced, which is a great thing. Obviously, the technology is revolutionary, right? The 5G technology. And therefore, you'll have segments of the ecosystem that will play catch up, which is what is happening. Ultimately, the sooner we catch up with the promise that, and catch up and are able to support the promise that 5G delivers, as an economy will probably.
Edge data centers, I think that is going to be the future in terms of, because you need to get closer to the requirement to serve them, like manufacturing plants, for example, and if there is a specific city where there is a large sort of an AI park coming up, so you have to get the data center next to it so that low latency and all those services can be taken care of. So Dr. Paventhan, on the use cases, let's talk more around what use cases have you seen or you feel should be coming up soon from education, healthcare, and areas that you guys are involved in from 5G, and then practicality which will help the educational system and skilling and everything. If you want to just talk more on that.
Yeah. One of the initiatives which government, especially the Department of Telecom, has done is on the 100 5G lab that was already funded, close to 50 lakhs for each institutions across the region. It is spread over complete India. So the idea was to set up labs within the academic institutions to support skilling as well as use case related development, specific use cases like the way you have mentioned health. Different each institutions identified a 5G use case that will be delivered on a test bed and also usable by nearby academic institutions. And this is one initiative where both skill as well as the use case related development is happening. And other than that, 5G and beyond 5G, going forward, 6G funding close to 500 crore DOT has funded based on my data available in the DOT. So about 132 proposals have been funded already going forward, mostly to industry, startup, academia. So that is also one of the initiatives that is done. And if you see the use cases, definitely healthcare, as you said, is a very good use case for 5G, especially in the, many of us talked about the low latency aspect of 5G, which is not really leveraged by many of the use cases. For example, one of the cyber physical system test bed that we have built between IISc Bangalore and ERNET Chennai at IIT Madras is on the remote surgery kind of use case, where a human operator can be on the one side and the teleoperation which is done by the robo on the other side. So fiber can provide 10 millisecond latency. We have a big pipe. But what happens to the edges? Like the edge is the part where we need to leverage the 5G protocols, like time-sensitive network, deterministic network protocols, so that the edge doesn't become a bottleneck. So we build a proper edge so that telesurgery kind of use cases, remote maintenance, for example. We can have a human operator who can do the maintenance work remotely by using a robot. So these kind of industrial IoT use cases can become one of the good use case to demonstrate 5G, especially leveraging the ultra reliable low latency. So the time sensitive network, the IEEE TSN and the DetNet, which is an IETF standard, all of them are an enabler of 5G URLLC. So those were the kind of things that we need at the edges. And also on the core network like MPLS, because the best effort traffic should be given low priority compared to the 5G priority traffic, or URLLC traffic, all need to be configured end to end so that we get a proper use case. So definitely we need multiple such efforts by both industry as well as academia in collaboration. It doesn't happen only with R&D. So more such government funding to support this is required. Yeah.
India wants to lead 6G. I think Honorable Prime Minister has said they want to be the first, player in 6G, leading the standards and leading the whole world towards that. So is that really happening? Do you see that 6G labs are also? I know there are some 6G labs come up in the country, but is that from a government standpoint you're seeing progress there?
There is already a big funding on 6G given to IIT Madras and IIT Guwahati. There was some academic along with Samir, one of the mighty institution. They are part of it. So similar to the 5G indigenous testbed given or built by IIT Madras, a follow-up proposal has also been funded on 6G towards, because what we kind of catch-up game in 5G, we wanted to be on the same page on 6G. So that is one of the aim with which this is getting funded. So hope we don't do the same mistake what we did in 5G. So that's.
So with all this coming up, Pratap 6G will come also very soon with the data growth happening. When you now do a new data center build, right? Traditional data centers, we all know how they were built. Now when you do a new data center build, are you taking into account all this futuristic growth plans that are coming up? And from an architecture standpoint, what are the different things that you're trying to do in a data center to support that? For example, sovereign cloud, or getting ready for AI services. Is that some thought process when you do a new build?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at the time that is taken to build a data center, 6 months going permitting and building the shell and core takes about 1.5 years. So it takes typically anywhere between 18 months to 2 years to come up with a data center building. So we have to future-proof it. Say for example, as I mentioned earlier, with AI workload coming in and liquid cooling also being implemented now, the height of the building is now, we are talking of building 7-meter height slab to slab, which was earlier only 5 meter, 5.6 meter. So that's changing big time. The demand for power is again increasing. As I mentioned, every rack, on an average, we used to take like 12 to 15 kilowatt per rack. Now we are talking of anywhere between 150 to 200 also, which means the power also has to be increased or designed for that capacity. Likewise, cooling also then in that case. So power is very important, cooling is important. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to future-proof it, but we don't know really what's going to happen after 2 years. So whatever we know as of now, I think that's what we are trying to design for, but it can become obsolete in no time, and that's our biggest worry. Like when we have built our phase 1 in Mumbai, it's a 24 megawatt data center, and we can build almost 150 megawatt. But recently, one hyperscaler said that even 5.8 meter height is not suitable for us, for their workload. And that I'm talking of just in 2 years' time. So it's evolving, very fast.
So you need to almost like it's difficult to catch up with the way things are moving. You can do futuristic, but how much of futuristic is going to be there when you actually come to that? So yeah, but I can imagine the challenges around it. Right? So as 5G has grown so much in terms of the usability and everything, Uttam, there is all kind of concerns we keep on hearing around security and vulnerabilities in the network, and IP network is sort of one of the main sort of drivers for all these kind of security issues which typically we hear. So what is the industry doing to take care of those from a security standpoint? Can you shed some light on that?
Sure. I'll first caveat it by saying neither me nor my company are well equipped to talk about security in general, because we are a pure play IP transit provider. Sure. But I'll probably give you a slightly more philosophical and strategic kind of a response to that. So with the proliferation of 5G, what's happened is the number of devices that are connected to the network are just exponentially increasing, right? So the threat landscape has been expanding, and that's a matter of concern. What has also happened is, in order for certain carriers, and we probably know the names, certain carriers to monetize their existing investments, some of the carriers went for a non-standalone 5G implementation, right? So that's kind of hybrid technologies which may not be able to leverage fully the security protocols supported by 5G, right? The 4G network doesn't necessarily support. So that increases the threat landscape. So more IoT devices that are connected, IoT devices can be hacked, and also more devices. So, and because of the global marketplace, telcos buy equipment from anywhere in the world, right? If you buy, of course, there is now a lot more regulation around that. So state and non-state actors can kind of carry out activities that are not in the best interest of our country, right? So that's another big threat. On our network, we're constantly evolving our security stances to make sure that our network is safe. But one of the things that we do is comply with local regulations, right? So you have now things like the trusted sources certification that is required for any equipment that's put on the network. I think that kind of, the more people comply with it, though it comes at a cost, the more there's compliance to it, the better the security of the sovereign network is, right? Because that's very important. Enterprises that we work with are very, very focused. What they're looking at is, one of the approaches that they're taking is the applications have to be, security has to be built native to the applications rather than being wrapped around. And that works pretty well. And of course, they also ensuring that their own supply chain is fully compliant with their own security policies. So policies to define their own security stances, security native applications, and then ensure that the whole supply chain is compliant with security stances.
Yeah, so absolutely. In fact, it is, with these open networks and all, the risk of security is also increasing day by day. So important to take. And Dr. Paventhan, I think from your standpoint, from research when happens, how are you taking care of this, concept around zero trust networks or making sure that the cybersecurity is taken care of right from a research standpoint? Are you guys thinking around that? And what's the view?
Yeah, one is that, as it was rightly said about the number of devices is going to be increasing. Like, I think close to 1 billion devices per square kilometer. That is the scale with which 5G is going to connect. The massive machine type communication is going to connect close to 1 billion devices in 1 square kilometer. So the number of devices is the part where the scale with which the connectivity is going to happen is going to, the threat surface is going to increase. So number one. So that means that we need to be prepared because the enterprise level security is almost robust and reasonably well addressed. Whereas the device security is the part where there are some initiatives that is done. At TSDSI level on standardization, there is a separate working group on security which is looking at 6G security going beyond. Like for example, quantum key distribution, post-quantum cryptography, and aspects like IoT identifier, zero trust network, all related standardization with respect to India as well as in the global context by participating in international standardization forums like 3GPP, 1M2M, all that is happening. So that is one aspect in the standards part. And on the project level, the MeitY has initiated a project called IoT Sandbox Development and Device Security Framework Development, funded to various academic institutions like IITs and also CDAC, ERNET, all of us are part of it. The idea is because there are many devices coming into the market, so do we have, currently we don't have a certification or a validation mechanism, be it a CCTV camera or any sensors that is coming to India. So it has to go through a standard test process so that we validate and say that, okay, it complies to established industry standards like IEEE 6LoWPAN standard or MAC layer standards and also IETF network layer standards so that we validate on the functional as well as the security compliance aspects, whether the device is having any security vulnerabilities, all to be tested for its hardness so that we can certify and then make it usable. And the idea is to create a security validation framework platform so that as a workflow, when the device comes under test, we certify and say that it is valid. So this kind of framework test platform is getting developed. So it's a 3-year project. We expect it to complete in another 2 years. So it will be handed over to the standardization and certification authority so that any device coming into the Indian ecosystem will go through that certification process before it gets deployed.
Oh, it's interesting to hear all this.
Correct. So that's a MeitY funded project currently ongoing.
Okay. Because as we grow, as I said, if AI grows more and more, security will become even a bigger concern for everybody, right? And Pratap, even for data centers, right, you would be looking at security as a...
Absolutely. That's one of the key...
As part of the architecture, it's for a given now that you guys have security services
Yes.
and everything to be offered?
Absolutely. It's part of managed services, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let me just open it up. Anybody has any questions or comments? Please, can we have a...
Yeah, good morning. I'm Sunil David. My question is to Dr. Paventhan. Sir, you mentioned about the 100 5G labs. I think a couple of years back in the budget, they announced that. So I have a two-part question. One is, what's the progress on that? because the whole objective was to get the whole ecosystem together, right? Startups, academia, industry. So what's the progress on that? Number two, the 5G skilling. Are we seeing universities, colleges integrating 5G related topics, subjects into the curricula now?
Yeah, one is that the 100 5G lab is also meant to support the curriculum skill related one, but 100 lab is definitely, for a country like India, it is really a small number, but still we have to start somewhere. The 100 5G labs have been funded in 2024, and you can see that in Tamil Nadu itself, there are about 6 colleges funded, like VIT, College of Engineering, Gindi, and SSN. So different colleges were funded, and they work on a particular use case, and it's about 50 lakhs for infrastructure development as well as fellowship and others. Yeah. So, and some 5G labs among that, for example, National Power Training Institute in Haryana, they also got funding just to demonstrate in the power sector related use case. One of the 5G lab funded to the Indian Agriculture Research Institute for agri-related use case. So their intent is to those labs to collaborate with startups and who are working in this domain, so that they can leverage this setup and demonstrate real killer use case. So, so 50 lakhs, it's definitely a small quantum of money, but definitely a good start, I would say. So 100 labs. So as I was also talking to the panel chair, so he said that there are more initiatives to come from the government so that the rollout up to the villages would become possible. And as you said, we are also part of the ministry working with the education industry. So we look for more opportunity for 5G skilling. There is a definite skill gap exists between the people who are coming out and then industry who are looking for talent. There is a skill gap that exists in 5G especially. Definitely going forward, there will be more opportunity for 5G and beyond 5G opportunity. So we look forward to working with the government because we need to address being part of it. Definitely we look forward to suggestions from industry and startups.
This is definitely top of the agenda of government. We do a lot of work on this side with government, and the skilling part which you mentioned, I think your second point, I think is absolutely critical. And there is a view around even for AI that we can keep on having whatever AI in the country, but if you don't have skilling in the correct way, then there is nothing that can happen in terms of actual use cases of it. So there is almost like a school, university, that level of discussions going on how do we do a mass rollout of skilling in this field. So yeah, there is a lot of good work happening there. All right, I think in the interest of time, we should be winding up. So this topic can go on and on. 5G use cases is like a topic that you can do a whole day discussion on, and also about AI. But thanks everybody from in the panel. Lovely to talk to you over here. People feel free to interact more later on if anybody wants. Everybody is here. But thank you everyone, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.